personal experience, my first digital design was done with some Synopsys technology. They are one of the world's largest EDA companies. If you remember the question and answer session with NVIDIA that happened last week, one of you guys asked why NVIDIA didn't do EDA software. And the reason is it is a highly specialized, highly technologically advanced niche. And in many ways, even NVIDIA would take many years to catch up to the kind of technology that Synopsys make available to you guys to use in your projects and so on for free with your time at university. And if you do go into semiconductor design, virtually any branch of it, you're not going to avoid meeting some of their technology as well. So I'd like to introduce Harish from Synopsys to introduce himself and share some of his insights into the semiconductor world.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Professor. So the first rule of presentations is come up with a catchy title. So I think I've accomplished that. Thank you, Professor Swaby. Thank you, everybody, for showing up at this class. This is my third time here. So I was here at the inaugural class, and it's just fantastic to see, just this class just growing in numbers and in scope. And that's just a testament to the fantastic program that Purdue runs over here. So I'm really happy to be here today. I want to start with the two most important words. Thank you. Thank you to the Office of Professional Practice at Purdue University for the great liaison that they have with the industry. They do an incredibly good job behind the scenes to connect with industries like us, to bring us into campus and to drive engagement. I want to thank you as well, because I really respect this time that I spend with folks like you in this time of your life. When there's so many possibilities in front of you, and I get this incredible opportunity to influence you and to drive your academic and career pathways. And if I can influence maybe one or two or even all of you for career pathways in semiconductors, then I've done my job here today. So thank you for listening to me today. And so I have a short video to show you to start with, just to give you a sense of this world of innovation that we are in right now.
For the human eye, at night you need light, you need illumination, and if you don't get enough illumination, you can't see anything. When you're driving during nighttime, your light has to react to all situations. Then it's important to have then a light in the right direction where you really need it. With LED lighting, this gave us the possibility to have adaptive light, so you can change it. We see the opportunity to make our light more emotional, more personalized. For the future, we need more powerful electronics, more intelligent software. It's something really new for the future in lighting. One of the most complicated products you can buy, actually, a car. Functionality driven by the software, driven by the hardware. With electronics and software, it's the heart of the car. Powerful electronic processors, connected software, infotainment systems, safety systems, LiDAR, radar, video camera systems, lighting systems. All of this has to work together. Our engineering job is to get together this high-performance computer electronic architecture to get then something that's really simple for our customers. People love our cars because it's very, very emotional. The electronics gets more and more complicated. We have the same amount of people caring about software and electronics as we have mechanical engineers. We're opening the door for a new era because now with software, connected cars and all of this, we can create much more for our customers.
They have the same number of people working on the electronics as they do on the mechanics of the car. That gives you an idea of how many chips go into something that you see on the road every single day. So that's the world of innovation that we're getting into. Audi is one of our customers, along with pretty much every single maker of electronics out there. So I would say 99% of every semiconductor device has seen Synopsys technology at some point in its life cycle, which is, so it gives you a sense of how embedded we are, how integral we are to the semiconductor industry. Another entity I want to thank is the Purdue College of Engineering, for doing such a great job with the Semiconductor Degrees program here at Purdue. Just like it takes a lot of different companies to design a chip and actually make it work the first time around, it takes a lot of people to educate an engineer as well. You need to have government policies, you need to have programs at the K through 12 level, at the undergrad level, at the graduate level, at the industry partnership level, to be able to, to do what Purdue is doing today at scale. And so thanks a lot to the Purdue College of Engineering. We've been partners with Purdue for many, many, many years. And it's just fantastic to see this program grow, in leaps and bounds every single year. So you're in the right place, you're in the right university, you're in the right class, and hopefully you will be in the right industry as well as you go forward. All right, so my presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, my company, what I do for the company. Then we will examine 3 overarching technical challenges. This is an engineering class, so let's examine 3 overarching technical challenges in chip design and how we're able to creatively model them using software tools. And then I will leave you with a sense of semiconductor economics. Ultimately, it's money that makes the world go round. And I will give you a sense of, what are the economics behind the semiconductor industry? Why is it important to the national security? Why is it important to the industrial supply chain? Right? And that's where the trillions of dollars comes into play in my presentation. So this is me. After 30 years in the industry, I can come up with a nice polished way of explaining what I've done with my life. But late in the 1900s, I was a student just like you, right? And without too much idea of what I was going to be doing. And so I'm going to just kind of stop here and tell you something about myself, right? About a person who sat in a room like this, many, many years ago, trying to figure out, what is it that I'm going to do with my life. And I got my undergrad degree. I'd taken a bunch of disconnected courses in engineering without really knowing what I was going to be doing. I ended up in grad school as well. When I finished grad school, I would have taken any job. There was a company that came to campus called Compass Design Automation. And they said that we were in this new industry called electronic design automation, and we're looking for tech support engineers. And are you interested? And I said, I just want to know how much the job paid. So it was sort of a very fundamental consideration, and I took it. And I started the job. It was going okay. It was I had to go to different customers, explain to them how our tools worked, install the software, troubleshoot. It was a basic tech support role, and I was doing okay at it until a point, when I visited a company called Medtronic. Medtronic may have come and spoken to you here too, and they make pacemakers and diabetes monitoring equipment and healthcare electronics. And it was right around that time, my father was diagnosed with diabetes, and this is a story I actually have told a lot, because it made a profound impression in my life, right? That actually I am working on stuff that has direct, it can have a direct and positive impact on my family. So Medtronic, and sure enough, in later life, my dad actually had a Medtronic glucose monitor implanted in his body that monitored his glucose on a regular basis. And it was an eye-opening event for me because it felt like my life had some purpose, as opposed to just getting a job and making some money and doing some work. I felt like, hey, I'm doing something great. I'm actually making a difference in people's lives. And that's really when I put all of myself into my work, into the industry. And then one thing led to another. I started managing more teams, and then I traveled all over the world. And yeah, now I have this nice fancy resume that I can boast about. But I can tell you this, right? Until you live a life of purpose, you just pretty much go through the motions. You do what everybody else has done, right? And I want you to find that purpose early on in your life, as opposed to me who found it, quite a bit into my 20s. And if you find that early on, then you will be able to, you will put more of yourself, you will put your entire passion into your work, and it will just drive you to greater and greater success. So that's me. I got my undergrad and graduate school. I did my executive MBA later on. That first job that I got, I started managing larger teams. And about 3 years ago, I got into this role of doing all the academic outreach for Synopsys, and I'm loving it. And I get a chance to speak to people like you, maybe motivate you to join companies like ours, and drive the next generation of technology. So I have a life of purpose today, and I have enormous meaning in my work. So coming to what I do for the company, let's talk about the company itself. Company's been around for 37 years. That's incredible, right? I mean, we've pretty much tracked the growth of the semiconductor industry. We were built with the premise that you can automate the design of integrated circuits, and we're still doing that today. We are continuing to advance the state of the art. Like I said, 99% of all electronics has touched Synopsys technology in some way, shape, or form. And of course, our financials look great. We are the number 12 software company by revenue. But more importantly, we are at the forefront of the state of the art. So the chips that are coming out into your devices that you use every day are being designed as we speak, and are using Synopsys technology, and you will see them in products maybe this Christmas, next Christmas, and so on and so on. We not only have electronic design automation, but we also have IP, intellectual property. So things like your USB, HDMI interfaces, your PCI Express, your SerDes IP. These are things that are plug-and-play reusable blocks that we also supply. We're one of the largest IP suppliers in the world, after a company called ARM in the UK. This partnership with Purdue happened a long time ago. In fact, this is our founder, Art DeGius, who founded the company at Synopsys. This partnership with Purdue goes back to the mid-90s. And it's just grown in size and scope, and we do a lot of work with Purdue. We are part of on the leadership of the Semiconductor Degrees program. We support the Center for Secure Microelectronics at Purdue. We support the SCALE program, the STARS program, this class, the Semiconductor Design 101. So we are embedded in the fabric of your ECE department, which is why I feel a great sense of affection to all of you and to this wonderful university, who's doing such a great job. In fact, it's the leading program in the United States by a distance. This is what I do, by the way, for Synopsys today. We deploy software. We call something called the University Software Program. 230 universities in the United States have our tools. About 150,000 Synopsys users in the US use our tools. So we have something called the University Software Program. We look for educational partnerships. For example, this is an example of an educational partnership, where somebody from the company comes here and delivers a lecture. We also sponsor students in the STARS program. That's an example of an educational partnership. Then we do research partnerships. We have an endowed professorship at Purdue, Dr. Dan Zhao. She does advanced research in materials and device level physics. And we also have something called the Academic Ambassador Program, which is an internal program for our employees. So if, for example, if we have an alumni of Purdue working at Synopsys, we want them to go back to Purdue and re-engage with their professors and keep that connection going. So if one of you were to join our company, I would want you to be an academic ambassador for Purdue and come back and do what I'm doing here right now. Right? So now in the context of the Chips for America, right? Everything what I do has the lens of workforce development on it. We have this enormous talent shortage in the US. At a time when the semiconductor industry is accelerating, we are about 20,000 professionals short. How are we going to, who's going to, we're not just going to pluck all these people out from the trees. We have to build them, right? We have to build them at the K through 12 level, at the middle school level, high school, and at the undergraduate and graduate level. So everything I do has this lens of workforce development on it. And we have a larger role to play than any other company because it's our tools that are used in all the companies. This is not workforce development for us. Yes, of course, we will hire some of you, but it's the industry, right? If you go work for TI or NVIDIA or Qualcomm or Broadcom, you will be using Synopsys technology over there. And so workforce development for us means these 150,000 Synopsys users in the US, the 700,000 worldwide. And this is my boss, by the way. She was my boss at Synopsys. She hired me in the company 20 years ago. So now she is part of the US Department of Commerce. She's actually the person disbursing the CHIPS Act money. So it's a very important role that she plays. And she's carefully tracking what we are doing at Purdue, by the way, I think for many different reasons. And like I said, we have a lot of different strategic partnerships at Purdue in the context of the CHIPS Act. Okay. Now, coming to the industry itself, we are, regardless of this political pandemic that we are in right now, just look at the electronic content in your life. Look at how many devices you're charging every day. We are in an era of accelerated semiconductor demand. Billions of chips. There are going to be more semiconductor devices than there are ants in the world at some point. I want you to think about that. This industry is going to $1 trillion. It's about $600 billion today. In just a few short years, it's going to $1 trillion. And what is driving all of this? Right? So I started my career sometime in sort of the late 90s, and right around the dot-com. We had, and then many different drivers. So we had the internet driver, the mobile driver, and now we are in the smart everything AI era. So almost every device that we have has some type of computation, some type of memory, and some type of communication capability. And along with AI techniques, you can do, it's just going to explode the electronic content in your life. So we are in this incredible growth spurt, and you're in the right place. The best time to be in semiconductors was 1986. The next best time is today. Right, so I just want to leave you with that thought. Now, where do we fit in? Synopsys. Where do we fit in? This is a monster industry, but it's a highly interconnected, interdependent industry. If semiconductors are about a $700 billion industry, we are on the top left-hand corner of the scale. We are in the EDA IP industry. They use our tools to design the chips that go into all these electronic devices. So everything is connected to everything. Right? There's no one person who does it alone. And if we didn't drive the state of the art, nobody else will. And if they didn't drive the state of the art, they wouldn't be driving us. So we all sink or swim together. This is another way to look at this chart, by the way. There are different kinds of companies. There are fabless companies like NVIDIA. They don't manufacture their own chips. They use companies like TSMC in Taiwan. And then there are IDMs, or integrated device manufacturers, that do everything on their own, or all by themselves. Like Intel is an example of that. Micron is an example of that. Right? Samsung is an example of that. And then all the folks in the middle are the people who are selling shovels to the gold rush. Right? These are the suppliers. So we are one of the suppliers. Cadence is another supplier. They are the tool manufacturers. So this is how the supply chain is integrated. And I'll come back and talk about this a little bit later. But this kind of gives you a sense of all the different logos and where do they fit into the grand scheme of things. The supply chains are deep. A chip goes through many different places, many different parts of the world. Taiwan, of course, all roads lead to Taiwan, right? Almost 80% of all the chips in the world are being manufactured in Taiwan right now. But things go through a lot of different parts of the world as well, right? Bangalore, India, Herzliya, Israel, Chandler, Arizona, Boston, Massachusetts, Silicon Valley. Right? And so it's very hard to separate where things get designed, manufactured, distributed, packaged, and sold. Right? I'm going to come back to this slide later. So where are semiconductors? They're everywhere. And I'm going to go through these next few slides very quickly. This is an iPhone 14. If you open up an iPhone 14, the biggest thing you're going to see there is the battery. And the reason I tell you this is I'm going to come to that technical challenge later on. I'm going to leave these slides with Professor Swaby. You can take a look at it. But the next biggest thing is the processor. And if you actually tear it down, you start seeing this work of art sort of emerge. There are over 50 chips that go into an iPhone. And it all works. Right? It is like the human body. It works. And it works like a work of art. Right? And these are just things that I could try to recognize. And I found the chip that actually counts your steps. That's the accelerometer in an iPhone. Right? Anyway, don't do this at home, please. Your phone's not going to work after that. But this is an iPhone completely deconstructed. These are slides I show, by the way, in a high school, because nobody ever takes apart a phone over there. Right? Now, the reason I brought this up is the most important overarching technical challenge in chip design is power. There is no other bigger challenge. How do you do something at the lowest power possible? And to give you an idea of why power is so important, is take a look at the global impact. Imagine if every single phone uses about 6 watts. If you multiply that by 1.5 billion phones, you're looking at a huge sucking sound of power. Right? 19,500 megawatt power plants. So it's very important that we design to be absolutely power efficient. And so this is where our low power flow comes in. Synopsys has something called the low power flow, where you, at every stage of the design process, you make decisions about power. And you try to conserve power at every single stage, because every single nanowatt counts. Right? Now, using our low power flow, I won't go through all of the details here, but if you use our low power flow on the same iPhone design, even a 4.5% reduction gives you a massive power savings at the end. So this is an example of one technical challenge that we are able to model in software, so that the results are good in terms of power conservation and power efficiency. Right? So this is something you will go through as if you continue your pathway in semiconductor design. Power is the most overarching challenge. The next thing I want to talk about, the next opportunity I want to talk about is AI. And people think AI is a big scam. It's not. Actually, no engineer thinks that. But people, Wall Street folks thinks maybe AI stands for artificial inflation. Everything just goes up. It's the next sort of big thing. It's not, right? It is. It's not. AI is a confluence of big compute and big data. If you have both, if computers become so inexpensive and data is all over, that's all you need for AI. As long as the models are trained, you can get incredibly good results. And it will improve your productivity. Like I will show you, here's an example of something that an expert did. And here's an example of the best known custom result of a problem statement that says achieve the lowest power by maintaining by total negative slack at less than 100 nanoseconds. So that's an expert. Now the same thing we given to an AI engine. And the first time we started training the engine, it gives you data that is all over the place. But once it gets trained, once there's enough data, enough designs have gone through, it starts doing a much better job. It starts triangulating those 3 parameters again and again and again and again and again, and ultimately gets you a result that's 30% better than the best known result. That's incredible. This is something that we are so excited about, and it's going to come, it's already in products today. It's getting better and better and better. Just assume that the AI you use today is the worst AI possible because it's getting better by the day. Right? One day you'll be able to do Professor Sweby's homework without doing anything at all. Right? Some great examples of how AI techniques are used in chip design. Right? We are seeing 8% better. Now these numbers look very small, but in the large context, they're massive. The impact is enormous. So 8% better utilization. That means your form factor for your product will be that much smaller. Right? Best congestion, best area. So any one of these parameters you can tweak and try to get as good results as you can using AI techniques. And guess what? We were the first one to pioneer this technique. These techniques are called design space optimization. Over 1,000 chips have been designed and taped out using this technology. So we're very proud about that. But at the same time, our industry doesn't respect history, doesn't respect tradition. It doesn't respect what you did many years ago. It only respects innovation. So we've signed a multi-year agreement with Microsoft. These are our two CEOs, by the way. This was just done 3 weeks ago. And they laid out a strategy for the future. So the next 3 or 4 years, this is technology that you would be working on. Assisting, acting, orchestrating, planning, and decision making. And that's how you're going to get from co-pilot to autopilot in chip design. And so that's a bold vision for the future laid out by our CEOs. Now it's our job as engineers to make this happen and realize this in silicon. And it's coming. It's here. A lot of it is here, and a lot of it, the path is clear to get there. So that's the AI opportunity for you, right, in this space. Now the last thing I want to talk about is, there was a time when you use your phone, you throw it away after 3 years, but there's so much electronics out there, things like heart pacemakers, your airbag systems in the car, your security systems at home. You don't change them that often. So you need to know what's going on while the device is in operation. What happens when the Tesla crashes? What kind of sensors can we instrument into the design so that keeps putting data out there that we can analyze and make a better version of the design later on. So how do you close the gap between testing and in-field operation? And that is something that's a new paradigm. It's called silicon lifecycle management. Again, this is something that Synopsys has pioneered, and it's now become a standard in the industry. And it was used in this chip. Cerebras is a company that makes AI processors. This is the largest chip that has ever been made. The numbers are frankly staggering, right? They're over, literally hundreds of millions of transistors. And here's a great quote from one of the design managers there saying that how silicon lifecycle management helped them in taping out this design and also continuing to monitor these designs when they are operating in the field. Okay. Couple plugs for our company. This is our digital design family. This is the flagship platform of Synopsys. Pretty much deployed in every single semiconductor company that's out there. Like I said, we also supply reusable building blocks like USB and HDMI and things that are well understood so that you can just take them off the shelf and plug and play, just plop them into your design and it'll work along with the other logic that you put in place. All right, so we talked about me, talked about the company, talked about some technical challenges. Let's wrap it up with a lesson on economics, right? Now, I showed you this graph about the supply chain and how interconnected, interdependent, and when everything works, it works seamlessly. A chip gets designed in Silicon Valley, gets tested in Boston, goes to Taiwan for fabrication, goes to Malaysia for assembly, it gets sold. Everything works, right? So what happens when it doesn't work, right? I think that's when governments around the world started realizing how important semiconductors are. Right? Only when you couldn't buy the dishwasher, or suddenly the cars became too expensive because they were just sitting around waiting for chips. And here's an example. This is Ford. Ford still hasn't recovered. Ford stock used to be, in 2020, Ford stock used to be like $25. It's less than $10 today. And this was the reason. So many cars, so many trucks just never got sold because they were just waiting for chips from Taiwan, and that never came. And so when the supply chain breaks, it basically affects all of us. Entire economies can grind to a halt. And that's the impetus behind this, the Chips and Science Act of 2022 that was signed in August of 22. We are into its third year now. And it apportioned $52 billion. Big money. This is the largest amount of government investment in any industry in the United States in recorded history. To be able to secure the semiconductor supply chain, to bring manufacturing and expertise back to the United States, and to make sure that we know that this kind of supply chain breakdown doesn't happen again. All right, so a number of different things are happening to ensure that. In terms of jobs, right? Over 1.6 million indirect and allied jobs are created by the semiconductor industry. This is another staggering number. Every single politician cares about this. Senator Todd Young of Indiana, he was one of the architects of the CHIPS Act, and he cares a lot about this. His office cares a lot about this. He's one of the folks who is continuing to bat for the CHIPS Act, regardless of whatever else is going on in Washington. Right? And in terms of, I know as a student, I cared about this. The average pay scale for a semiconductor engineer is actually an order of magnitude higher than pretty much any other engineering discipline. So this is something that you should keep in mind. And this is a great industry. It continues to innovate. It continues to sort of reinvent itself. And it's going to be around for a long, long time. So it's a great place to build a very exciting career for yourself. I was just telling you the average pay across the education spectrum is an order of magnitude higher. Yeah. I'm going to leave these slides with Professor Swamy, by the way. You can take a look at it yourself. Now, in terms of what kinds of jobs are possible, right? And there are so many types of engineers. You may hear the title, I'm this kind of engineer, that kind of engineer, verification engineer, test engineer, packaging engineer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I sort of broke it down into three broad areas, right? So either I build something, or I make it useful, or I deploy it at the customer site. So either you're a design engineer or a product engineer or an applications engineer. Now, I was an applications engineer. And these are folks that pretty much work on flows. They have broad knowledge. Design engineers typically have deep knowledge. So when you hear of someone called a verification engineer, they're working on simulation. They're working on making sure that an adder is actually an adder in the circuitry. Right? Now, the product engineer in between makes the product usable. They test it out. They make sure they put it through all its paces. They look at all the different use cases that customers use it for, and then they make sure it is ready to be shipped. And an application engineer makes sure that the customer is successful using it. So that's what I used to do. I used to go to a customer site, make sure that their bugs are resolved, and they're able to use the features they need to get the chip out the door. All right, so let's hear from Gray at Microsoft. I need to use this again. He is one of our Synopsys users. He's a new grad. He is of your generation, so I think you may appreciate what he has to say.
Hello. I graduated in 2024 with a bachelor's in electrical and computer engineering from Vanderbilt University. For about 8 months now, I've been working as a physical design engineer for Microsoft. To me, the most important thing after graduating was to find a job where I felt like I could continue learning on a weekly basis, even though I wasn't taking classes anymore. And I definitely lucked out choosing the semiconductor industry because there is so much to learn in this field. Every time I walk into the office, it feels like a completely new job, honestly, because sometimes I'll be doing design work, sometimes I'll be writing scripts for data analysis, and sometimes I'll debugging why something did or didn't work. Truly, there's a lot to learn, and I think that there's something in this field for everybody. I think one of the most important skills that I've found for this field, since there's so much to learn, is maintaining a sense of genuine curiosity and why and how things work, and not just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. It can be really tempting to do the latter sometimes because you might get lucky and find a solution, but you really forego the opportunity to develop a fundamental understanding of how and why things work that's going to serve you in the future when you come across a similar problem. There have been too many times when I'll just blindly try my code over and over again. And eventually I'll get something that works, but then when the time comes again to solve a similar problem, I don't have any understanding of why it worked. So maintaining a genuine sense of curiosity and spending the time to really understand how things work, I think, are critical tools in semiconductor design.
And with that, I'd like to wrap up my presentation here today. Semiconductors are everywhere. The industry is exciting, it's complex, it's intense, it continues to reinvent itself every single day. And it's a great place to build a great career. So I look forward to working with many of you in the industry. And if you have any questions, please fire away. I'm sorry, I think I'm a little bit over time. But I do have some good swag for anybody who asks a good question. And a good question is defined as a question that I know the answer to. So, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you.
We definitely have a few minutes left for questions, but Harish has kindly offered to stay on afterwards.
Yep.
Because we have a slightly more compressed time scale.
I was going to ask, since the EDA software that Synopsys makes is
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you too well. Yeah, I think, yeah, go ahead.
Since the EDA software that Synopsys makes is like so widely used, I've kind of two questions that are related. Is some of the software open source? And if so, are there like other industry collaborators, like other companies that contribute to Synopsys software?
Good question. Okay, so just for the benefit of the class, I mean, since Synopsys software is so widely used, is part of it open source, and do we make it easy for collaborators to collaborate with us? So the answer to the first question, no, it's not open source. The reason is, you know, a lot of our features and capabilities have been put in place through customer feedback, and customers do not want their you know, their IP to be widely, you know, to be widely available. So it is not open source, it is proprietary software, just like Google software is proprietary and Microsoft software is proprietary. However, the second part of your question, do we make it easy for collaborators? Yes, we have something called the App Store, just like Apple does. And any partner of ours will have access to those APIs and build, you know, products around us. So all of the companies that I showed you in the ecosystem, many of them have access to our APIs, and they build solutions and enhance our product or add additional analysis capabilities and things like that to it. So yeah, thank you for your question. And hey, let me not forget to give you a little swag bag here. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yes, sir, please.
How does Synopsys kind of envision the future of EDA tools? Like how do you think that the field of EDA as a whole is going to evolve over the next couple of decades?
I agree. Okay. The question is, how do we see the field of EDA evolving over the next few years in the face of all this technological progress?
Yeah.
You know, like pretty much anything else, we are going to track, you know, chip design. Designs are getting smaller. They're getting, you know, we have something called 3D IC right now, right? So we are going to have 3D capabilities in our tools. We are going to incorporate artificial intelligence in our tools. There will be cloud-based tools as opposed to today we have, for example, if you want to use the tools at Purdue today, you have to log into your NanoHub platform. We would be able to offer them on the cloud. So these are well understood trends that we will be tracking and we will be providing solutions for. So AI is definitely a big game changer for us. The automobile, I mean, you will not recognize the car of 20 years from now. It'll be like one of those Back to the Future kind of, movie type of things, right? And so that, I think the trends that we see are I mean, we can see there is line of sight for a good 5 to 7 years from now. Right? So like I said, co-pilot to autopilot, that's one of those trends that we see. Yeah, thank you for your question, and here's something. I need to finish this box here, so yeah.
I'm sorry to say that we're somewhat over time already, so if you have questions, please come up to...
And listen, I'm on LinkedIn. I am an academic ambassador, so this is my job to be in contact with you. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, and who knows, we will definitely meet again.